Hello, my name is Jille and today I would like to talk about circadian light. And that basically is the kind of light that supports our circadian rhythm and is responsible for regulating and supporting our biological clock. And this biological clock is basically a 24-hour cycle with sleep and wake periods. So why is this now important? Well, one of the reasons is we as people spend much more time indoors. About 90% of our time is spent indoors, and the key regulator to influence our circadian clock is the natural daylight outside. And if we are spending more time indoor, actually our body is missing important clues, and that can have an impact on our health and well-being. There are three roles of light that we often refer to. The first one is visual light, the second one is the emotional role of light, and the third one is the biological role of light. The first one, the visual role of light, is very easy. It's basically light that helps us to see and to be seen, and it's basically light for illumination and brightness. The second one is emotion, so it can actually support what we feel, and you can think about mood lighting, for example, in a restaurant setting. It helps us to feel cozy, intimate, or happy, or safe. For example, in a tunnel light, if you have more light that allows you to see other people's faces, then you will feel more safe. The third role of light is the biological role of light, and that's actually about how light can support your alertness and circadian rhythm. And also there are skin therapy or light therapy lights, and these are all focusing on the biological role of lights. Now, there are also important photoreceptors in your human eye, and there are also three photoreceptors I would like to highlight. The first one is basically for photopic vision, and that's basically, again, is for vision and how to see. The second one is photopic vision, and that's basically how to see under low light circumstances or at night. And the third one is about the circadian rhythm. So let's talk about that third part, that third receptor in the human eye, and that's basically melanopsin. The melanopsin is a photoreceptor that is existing within a cell type within the retina. And basically that regulates the production of hormones, especially of cortisol and melatonin. And it does that over a 24-hour cycle, and that's why it's called circadian rhythm. And circadian is basically a daily circle or a daily cycle, because circa and circle are basically meaning the same in Latin, and dia or day is basically the day part of it. So it's a daily cycle. The hormones are cortisol and melatonin. Cortisol makes us feel alert, and melatonin makes us feel sleepy. And these play a very important role in regulating activity and rest in the human body. In the morning, naturally, cortisol levels will increase and they will peak over the course of the day. And at the same time, melatonin levels will start to drop. And that helps us to feel less sleepy in the morning. And this combined together makes us feel rested and active. In the evening, when it becomes dark, melatonin levels will increase again because the body produces them, and this enables us to have a healthy sleep. A disruption of this circadian rhythm will actually affect this production of melatonin and cortisol, and it can have consequences for our sense of well-being and also our health. There is basically a whole relation between this circadian rhythm that is regulated by light and sleep, and also other factors such as the core body temperature and other factors. Basically, this cycle is running for a 24.2 hour duration, so it's slightly longer than a natural day. And light is used as a timekeeper, especially the brightness at noontime is very important to let the body know when is the main point of brightness, and that's basically the noontime. So in general, we need most light in the morning and less light in the evening, and the least possible light at night. And of course, it's a simple explanation because nature in itself has this kind of pattern as well. For example, on a sunny day, there's 100,000 lux. On a cloudy day, there's about 10,000 lux. And moonlight, that means at night, there's about 1 lux. But here's the interesting fact. Office lighting, for example, on your desk, the norm for most buildings and building regulation says that you need only 300 lux, and at home you use about 150 lux. So you can imagine that the natural outdoor light is 10,000 lux, and indoor in the indoor environment there's about 150 to 300 lux. That's a lot less, and even though we can still see, it doesn't mean that we are getting enough circadian light. The reason why we can still see is that the lux is optimized for our human vision, so we can still perceive brightness. And it's optimized about 550 nanometer, whereas the receptor for the circadian rhythm in the human eye is about 480 to 490 nanometer. So this sensitivity differs, and that's why light, even though it's seen in the same way, is responding in a different, or having a different effect in the human body. There are different kind of researches that have been done to first increase the brightness and also to have more biologically effective light. And the benefits of these kind of studies were feeling refreshed, having increased concentration, better alertness, and improved sleep quality and mood. Many of these kind of studies were originally conducted in factories with workers and simple tasks. And one of the things that they just asked and checked is errors that workers made. And it showed that people under more biologically effective light were having less errors compared to those that were under completely traditional kind of lighting. Recently, there is more attention for circadian lighting and also natural daylight in building standards. For example, in LEED building standard or WELL building standard, these standards are actually putting more emphasis on natural daylight also access to quality views. And yes, that quality views is basically the ability to look outside the window. Also biologically effective light. And that's basically in recognition of the benefits for health and well-being for the employees or all the people that are walking around and working there, as well as visitors and benefits on terms of productivity or decision making. So I would like to address a few frequently asked questions. Number one is why is circadian lighting relevant today? And one of the first answers to this is that, well, now that the third melanopsin receptor has been discovered and the Nobel Prize was awarded in 2017 in recognition of this kind of research from those scientists. And now we actually know that light is not just like a folklore kind of wisdom that light can influence your sleep, but it's also proven and scientifically proven that there are receptors in the body that are responding and basically controlling the human hormones, which makes us feel good and helps us to sleep. So not only have we discovered this kind of workings, but also now we understand what kind of wavelengths of light are actually effective to, for example, support the circadian rhythm. And what we think is that you should still have architectural light or functional light that is great to see and to feel great. And on top of that, we think we should add circadian lighting as an element so that lighting overall will become of higher quality. Second part is circadian lighting the same as lux? And the answer is no. Lux is basically the amount of light that's reflected from a surface and back to the human eye. And so that already explains that it is about the visional role of light. And there are other terms or metrics, and these are a little bit about the well-being specifications of light, talking about melanopic lux, or we talk about circadian lux. And it's also recognized by external regulatory bodies or building standards. For example, they call it melanopic lux in the United States as part of the WELL building standard. There's also a lighting research institute that talks about different kind of circadian effective light in the US. In Europe, they call about MEDI. So it's all related to a way of measuring how effective circadian lighting is. And also, if there is research, when there is research done, often they also measure in terms of brightness. How much brightness do you need in order for light to be effective and for example, to suppress your melatonin, which makes you feel sleepy, and therefore you feel more awake and alert and probably more able to focus and active. And then it shows that research shows no correlation if you just measure lux, but if you measure circadian light or melatonin light, then actually there is a relationship. What intensity is required for circadian lighting, and can regular lighting deliver this? So it depends on the time of the day, how much circadian light you need. In general, it's recognized that at this moment you need about 200 to 250 melanopic lux on the human eye. So it's very important that normally for visional light we measure on a surface, for example on a desk. But for circadian lighting we are talking about light that hits the human eye, because that's where light enters. And of course there are different kind of standards. So for example, if you're looking at workplace environments, then probably you should target 150 to 250 melanopic lux. But if you are focusing on hotels and sleep, or having a very good waking up experience, then you should go from probably 0 in the morning to ending at 150 melanopic lux. And yeah, there are different ways. So it really depends on your purpose, and based on the purpose, whether you want people to be awake or you want people to fall asleep, there will be different recommendations. But the key thing is to remember it's about light that hits the eye, so it's a vertical plane. Another question is quality of light still important? The answer is yes. Quality of light is basically talking about the intensity of light and also the color rendering of light, basically the CRI, or glare, that's another factor. And there are a lot of other differences that are part of the quality of light, and these should all be taken care of. And we suggest that circadian lighting, or I suggest that circadian lighting should be added on top of those requirements. Another question is, what's the difference with tunable lighting? Because now many people actually have tunable lighting, and it shows it can change its light color temperature from, let's say, warm white to cool white, and vice versa. Well, that's basically a jump from a color point to another color point, and it is true in general that, let's say, cooler white have a higher melanopic lux content compared to a warm white fixture, but still at the same time, these fixtures are not optimized for circadian light, and still are less efficient than fixtures or light sources that are optimized for supporting the circadian rhythm. So what are some of the design principles for circadian lighting in terms of lighting design? So first we think just keep all the lux levels the same as you would have in your normal layout, and the reason is because lux relates to vision. So that visional role will still continue to exist. But second, we suggest to add circadian lighting content metrics. So that's about the melanopic lux content or the circadian lighting stimulus ratio. Those kind of things are just added on top of the lighting design. The other part is to track the natural course of daylight. So it would be better to actually work in line or in sync with the outdoor basically a sunrise and sunset pattern, because that will make people feel more in sync with nature, and it will be beneficial. So are there any widely accepted standards? Yes, there are. Well standard has introduced melanopic lux, and it has feature 54 and other features that talk about circadian lux. In addition, the Lighting Research Center at the RPI is focusing on circadian light stimulus, and it's basically another kind of metric. So can circadian lighting be deployed anywhere? Yes, it can be deployed anywhere, and it is in particular useful for people in indoor buildings. And those could be public spaces, even for example such as airports or train stations, to offices, to hospitals, to care homes, everything, every space where people are moving.